Hey, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about being self-taught versus going to university. And 5 years ago, I wanted to start a professional career in tech. So I started to kind of learn the programming basics on websites like Udemy. And I also thought about going to university and actually starting to study computer science. And in the end, I did both. And that's why I want to share my experiences as, on one side, being a self-taught developer and finding jobs as a self-taught developer and actually studying computer science, right? And I want to break it down with the pros and cons of being self-taught and the pros and cons of actually studying computer science at a university. So let's go. So we'll start with the cons of being a self-taught developer. The first point is that your knowledge is very narrow and very domain specific. So that means if you're, for example, an HTML email developer and that's all you can do, then at work you might be confronted with some bugs or some errors that require a deeper understanding of the architecture and the technology that you're working with. And if all you did was learn HTML and CSS, you might not have that deeper understanding yet. And that might lead to some sort of imposter syndrome. At least that was the case for me when I thought, all right, everybody here sees that I don't really have an idea what I'm actually doing. And I think that it will get better over time, but especially if you've been changing careers and you're taught yourself how to work with HTML and CSS and all that stuff, then you might also be confronted with imposter syndrome. All right, and that will lead me to number 2 on the bullet point list, and that is imposter syndrome. Being self-taught will make you more prone to having imposter syndrome because you don't know everything and you know that you don't know anything, right? And you really might feel like an imposter at work. You really might feel like everybody around you knows that you don't know stuff, while actually it's just a matter of confidence, really, because once you get to know software development and once you get to know it a little bit better, then you will find out that actually every time you start a new project and every time you confront it with a bug, it's quite normal that you don't know anything, right? You always have to read documentation, you always have to read new stuff, and okay, well, maybe over time you will memorize method names and everything, so you might know them right off your brain instead of having to look them up every time, but like that's normal. But once you gain confidence and once you know that it's normal not to know everything, I think that imposter syndrome will get less, and you will be more self-confident, but still that's a con, because especially if you're switching careers and you've been in a different branch before and you're switching to software development, then it's kind of something you have to get used to, right? And that will lead me to the third point on the con list, is that if you're switching careers to software development from another branch, and if you've worked as something completely different before, then your new colleagues will not see you as a developer yet. They will always see you as, oh, you've been that accountant that switched careers. At least that was the case in my career. I've been an accountant for 9 months, switched careers, and I always was seen as the accountant. Even though I was in software development for 2 to 3 years, I was still the accountant. So I had to switch companies a couple of times until people didn't think of me as the accountant anymore. And that goes that's the same for any other branch that you've worked in before. So it's important to start somewhere, but it's also important to know that that company that you will be in will not be your final destination, right? You will have to switch careers so people will know that you're actually a software developer. Next up are the pros for being a self-taught developer. And number one is that it's way, way cheaper, especially if you're from the US or from Canada, where the costs for going to university are so astronomically high. I can even understand it coming from Germany and going to university in Germany, where also the prices for university are like 2 to 3 thousand. But compared to being self-taught and where JavaScript course is like 10 euros on Udemy and maybe 20 euros for a subscription on Pluralsight. By the way, links are in the description below. And so it's not even comparable, right? So you might end up having to spend 150 euros max for all of your courses, and then you're set and you're ready to go and you're job ready, right? So compare 150 euros to something like 2 to 3 thousand or even hundreds of thousands in the USA. Number two is that being self-taught is way, way faster than going to university. Like if you're self-taught, you will be job ready within 9 to 12 months max. Within 12 months, you'll have a portfolio set up, you will have some example projects, you will have enough knowledge of the technologies to get ready for work. So compare that to, for example, going to university where you'll have to study like 4 years, 3 to 4 years until you get your degree and until you're actually job ready and ready to get started. So when you're self-taught, you will have that done within 12 months, right? Another point is that you will achieve all of the skills that you will need in your job. So if you're a self-taught and you decided to go with a course online on Udemy or Pluralsight or whatever, and you follow along with your instructor, then you will get to a point where you're stuck and where you have to Google. And since you're self-taught and you don't have a mentor or anybody else, then you will have to start Googling and you will have to start to find that solution to the problem by yourself. And that's a very, very valuable skill to have, because at work you will need that skill. Because if you're at work and you're constantly asking your coworkers, hey, how do I do that, how do I do that, then they will start to get annoyed because they will have to do the work for you. While if you're self-taught, then you will be forced to do that by yourself, right? And those are very, very valuable skills that should not be underestimated. So that is number three of the pros of being self-taught. So let's compare that to university. And I will start with the cons of university. And one con of university is that you don't really learn how to code in university. You will get to know the basics of either Java, Python, C++, or C# or some object-oriented language, but you will not get to learn how to program, how to set up a real project. You will not learn anything about Git, about all of those technologies necessary to actually develop an actual application. You will get to know object-oriented programming. You will get to understand what object-oriented programming actually is. You will also learn something about assembly, something about memory allocation, and all of that kind of stuff. You will learn about such a broad field within computer science, but software development is a section of computer science, and they will not get that deep into that one specific section. So if all you want to do is learn software development, then you will be very disappointed if you start a computer science degree, if you start to study computer science, right? Another problem is, but I think that's a very general problem with universities and with studying, is that you will get to know a very wide range of concepts that you will never need again in your life. And it's good to see them, but chances are very high that you will never again need it in your life, right? So that's another con of university, maybe a con of university in general, not just computer science, but this is about computer science right here. So I put it in the list as well. And another con is, it's not really a con, but you will have to learn assembly. You will, I don't know who in their right mind will actually program in assembly, but that's something that you will have to study, and the university will test your knowledge in assembly for some reason, right? So those are the three cons of university. Now let's get to the pros of university. And I know that I put it on the cons list before, but to me it's also a pro, and that is a very wide range of basic CS concepts. For example, you learn how a client works with the server, how they communicate with each other. You learn about different protocols like HTTP or SMTP or FTP or whatever, and those are very important concepts that will not directly teach you how to code, but it will make you understand what's going on when you're actually coding and when you're in software development, right? Now, the next point on the list is something that should not be underestimated, and that is the confidence and the self-esteem that you actually gain when you stuck to something and that you finished your college, your university, or whatever. Because that's actually where imposter syndrome comes from, that you think that all of the other people kind of find out that you don't really know something, but if you studied computer science, then you know that you know something. You know that you know the basics of computer science, and that you know how everything works together. So that will kind of have you less prone to a imposter syndrome, if that makes any sense, right? So I put that on the pro list because to me, I think that is something very valuable, even though it's not measurable, right? Now, the next point is something that you might not even think of right now, but maybe 5 or maybe 10 years from now, you might not be that interested in software development anymore as you are right now. So if maybe in 5 or 10 years you want to switch careers, maybe you're more interested in the management side of things. Maybe you want to manage software developers, or maybe you're more interested in a Scrum Master or something like that, kind of the project management side of things. Then it's kind of different because they will require you to have some sort of bachelor's degree, or something that's has something to do with computer science and a bachelor's degree. So always keep that in mind. Maybe right now you really want to go into software development, but how is it like 5 to 10 years from now? Will it be more valuable to have a degree from, I don't know, some boot camp, or will it be more valuable to have an actual bachelor's degree or a master's degree or whatever? So that's also a pro for the universities, is that it's viewed as more valuable by the employers. Of course, having a Udemy certificate, or having a nice portfolio, it's always nice to have that if you want to start software development. But in the long term, it's way more valuable to have a university degree, a bachelor's degree, master's degree, or whatever. So those were the pros and the cons of being a self-taught developer versus going to university. And in my opinion, in my experience, I think that going to university will give you more value in the long run, in the long term, for the rest of your career. But if you just want to start software development right now, and if you want to start switching careers, and maybe you have a family and you don't even have time for university, then by all means, go the self-taught developer route. It is possible to switch careers. There's so much demand for software developers, and I would suggest that you start with an online course like Udemy, Pluralsight. Again, links in the description. And depending on the country where you're from, at least in Germany, I don't really understand why we have boot camps, because a boot camp will cost you around 7 to 8,000 euros, while going to university will cost you like 3 to 4,000 euros. So I don't really understand it why we have that. I understand it for countries like the US, Canada, UK, where university will cost you around $100,000, while boot camp will cost you like 20,000. That's why I understand it, but I don't understand it for Germany. It depends on the country where you're from, right? But I would suggest going Free Code Camp, Udemy, Pluralsight, something like that, Laracast, something like that, and get started with learning software development. So that'll do it for me. I hope you gain something from this video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.